Welcome back everyone, Oz here, and today I've got some more RPG horror stories, and also some D&D horror stories. This is kind of what Wednesday's schedule has become, and this is one of my favorite subreddits, so I decided to make Wednesday kind of a fun day for me. I hope you all enjoy this subreddit as much as I do, and let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, because I'm not always right. I'm not a monolithic opinion, so I always enjoy hearing what everyone has to say below.
So if you drink gamer subs, use code Oz at checkout.
Absolute Sub 099. DM total party kills over Chick-Fil-A. So I play D&D with some friends. Our forever DM usually hosts the games at his dorm. This was our most recent campaign, as we haven't played D&D at all since. I think I may try to DM in the future though. Our game was a time travel campaign that involved us trying to stop this evil Time Lord. Our actions had a lot of weight in this campaign, as anything we did in the Prime Material Plane, Homebrew World, Shadowfell, or Feywild would affect the future. The DM also homebrewed some time spells, so most of us ended up choosing magical classes: Wizard, Warlock, Bard, Druid, and me, a Paladin. We started off in this quaint little town and then set out, found some Atlantis-style ruins, and then went to the grand city of Tyloria, great capital of the Empire, where the Time Lord's minions, demons, some low level enough for us to fight and survive, attacked it and destroyed it. We then fled to a secretive city-state that the Time Lord had not ravaged yet, and found a time crystal that gave us access to the near future, which was post-apocalyptic and hellish, made to look like the Time Lord's fiery empire in the Nine Hells, which itself was unaffected by time travel. Now, this is where I need to add some context about our real-life group dynamics. As I mentioned, we met at our DM's dorm and we were all good friends. We would come over to his place on Saturdays, eat some food, usually from on campus, play D&D, and then play video games and talk about life until we went home. One day, however, Warlock's player suggested we eat something good for once and go off campus. DM suggested Chick-Fil-A. He loved Chick-Fil-A and hadn't been there in forever cause so far away and he doesn't drive. Wizard player says he wanted some Mexican food from around that same area, so he'd go out and get it. We all agreed to get our food from around that area too, so we ordered our food. DM said he wanted 2 spicy chicken sandwiches, frosted lemonade, extra ranch, and a large order of waffle fries. He texted this order to the group chat as well. We then gave Wizard's player the money, and he went off to get our food. Unfortunately, I don't know if Wizard's player forgot or the restaurant screwed it up because they gave him a regular chicken sandwich and no ranch. DM was like, "Is this regular?" I said spicy. "And where's the ranch? That's like the best part. Come on, man." Wizard's player then just said, "Stop being a baby and just eat the damn sandwich." DM then responded with, "I even gave you a tip." Wizard's player then said, "There's no real difference between the spicy and regular anyway," which enraged the DM as they started arguing and escalating until this was just now a full-blown shouting match. I was afraid hands were going to get thrown until DM just said, "Let's just get back to the fucking game." And we did as the DM barely touched his sandwich. We picked up as the party returned to the past in order to figure out how to stop the big bad evil guy. But we returned greeted by an infernal knight, who told us that time is the domain of the Time Lord, not low lives like us, and immediately attacked us. We were level 3. He was a CR20 monster. We had no chance, and got total party killed on the spot. We all were upset and tried to protest, and the DM just said, "Skill issue!" till the wizard player called him out for doing this over a fucking sandwich. And DM just said, "Like I said, skill issue. You couldn't get a basic order right. Maybe God made intelligence and wisdom your dump stat. Cringe." Wizard player just stormed out and the rest of us were just kind of silent for a sec and then left too. Like I said, we haven't had a game since. DM apologized to the rest of us, except Wizard's player, for the total party kill, but said he still doesn't want to DM anymore. Wizard's player and DM aren't talking, and we're all just kinda sad that our friend group has been soured by this. Too long didn't raid, friend group and D&D campaign ruined over a Chick-Fil-A order. Now, for those of you who don't play D&D, a CR20 monster is usually a pretty strong challenge for a group of level 15s. This does vary quite a bit and depends on the party you're dealing with, but the general rule of thumb that I've seen is you take 1/4 of your total party's levels and that's how you find your challenge rating. I've also seen people adjust this to 1/2 depending on how broken their players are or how well adapted their players are to their skill set. So, that being said, a group of level 3s should be fighting anywhere from a challenge rating 3 to 4, not challenge rating 20. And the fact that this happened over a sandwich, I think DM might have some anger issues or just that particular day, he was having a rough one and the man really need his very specific Chick-fil-A sandwich and just kind of snapped about it. I think the wizard did pull a dick move by not apologizing, especially when the food was paid for and apparently a tip was given, but also the DM should not have punished the rest of the party for his Chick-fil-A order being messed up. Honestly, I'm really curious to see what you guys think. Do you think the DM in this scenario for getting his sandwich messed up should have punished the wizard, or do you think that the wizard should have just apologized and provided the DM with some form of compensation? I personally think, though, that punishing a player character for something that happened outside of the D&D session is not okay. But I am curious to see if maybe there's a line that could be crossed when your food is messed up and you paid for it. Villain Mollusk. Kicked from an otherwise awesome group for not acting like a fighter. For reference, I love taking vanilla as fuck fighter builds and developing deep RP around them. It lets me play a central role without hogging the spotlight from other players, and it gives me some writing challenges. Some time back, I created a fighter for my friend's game, and I explicitly made the character hesitant towards violence. He was one of those, I won't start a fight, but I will end it types. At least when it came to protecting his friends. I kind of based his personality off of one of my dogs, so for the first few sessions, this was fine. But eventually, the DM approached me and said that there were complaints about my character not acting like a fighter. My immediate concern was that I must not have been doing the right things during combat, but none of the complaints were about how I had actually performed during combat, and there were no complaints about my build. Instead, I was just told that my character was too much of a Boy Scout to be a fighter. The DM, a history major, oh god, told me that the chivalric way that I was playing my character was historically inaccurate, and that I should play more aggressively or pick another class. This shocked me, as he was normally open to characters that broke stereotypes. And he was, I'm sorry, what? Historically accurate? What, like elves? Gnomes? Fucking artificers? What do you want? I'm sorry. I usually don't break in the middle of those, but it's goofy. Historically inaccurate. And that I should play more aggressively or pick another class. This shocked me, as he was normally open to characters that broke stereotypes, and he was a martial artist IRL who was quite a bit of a Boy Scout himself. This wasn't an evil or even an edgy campaign, so my character's personality overall wasn't the problem. I was just told to put it with another class instead. Paladins were limited to being god-based only, and that didn't fit with my character's personality either. I just wanted to play a decent supportive guy who also knew how to fight and was careful about escalating conflict. Ultimately, despite it being a great group with amazing RP interactions, I chose to leave. Even if I create a new character, I just don't know if I trust the DM to work past these kinds of stereotypes anymore. To follow up, I recently asked the DM if he thought all casters should immediately jump to trying to solve all problems with spells, and if rogues should try to solve all problems with deception. He basically said yes. Am I missing something here? No. You're playing a role-playing game. Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, any of those for this case. Historically accurate is not a factor that you need to worry about. Especially because, well, what history are you referring to? Because I hope to God it's like an internal campaign history and not our history. Because I don't think I need to explain to you why historically accurate doesn't apply to Dungeons and Dragons. Bro just wants to flex his history degree. The worst part too is that if this is major, this is like the worst way to use it. He could incorporate fun historical elements into the campaign to help blend it with things that the players might recognize that their characters won't, to help kind of create a nice sense of suspense. There are fun ways to use your majors and incorporate them within the D&D setting, but this is why? Mass, and in a little tiny face right there. Cue, my character gets assassinated because of something I had zero control of. Let's get some things straight. My party, sorcerer, me, monk, fighter, and a wizard. DM had us teleported to Wildmount for some mission that the Acquisition Incorporated listed us to do. 10 minutes in, my sorcerer falls into a pool of mercury because I natted 1 my perception, despite everyone else noticing it. DM asked if anyone would call it out so my character could avoid it, and they all said no, so I fall into mercury. Wisdom save? Nat 1 again. Dude, your dice are fucking cursed. Ended up being controlled to attack my party, so we rolled initiative. 1. Sorcerer gets stun locked by monk and knocked out before taking a turn. Fall unconscious. DM. Okay, so you're no longer controlled. We'll keep initiative going to see if you can get stabilized. My turn.
Death save. Net 1.
2 failed saves instantly. Monk turn.
I kill him.
Unarmed strike, and I'm dead. Now, I would have been fine if he argued that his character wouldn't know that my sorcerer is off mind control or whatever, but his explanation is that since the start of the campaign, he rolled dice and decided at random that my character is assigned to him as a job to be assassinated. Mind you, that wasn't even discussed with the DM, nor me. My character backstory was so empty of enemies or things that knew about his existence to begin with, so I was surprised for that no reason he was marked for death. So, I had to sit there the rest of the session dead, and I eventually left and would never return. Hey, first things first, grab your dice, put them in your hands, go to your kitchen, and put them in the blender, because 4 nat 1s in a row, buddy, you need new dice. That is ridiculous. Second, while it is uber cringe that a player assassinated you because he marked you for death and didn't discuss it with anyone else, the most cringe part of this is the fact that you weren't able to make another character. And you just sat there for the entire session. They didn't warn you of a mercury pit, it got your character killed, and they didn't let you make a new one. And what's arguably worse is what OP says down here. What fucked with me even more is that I asked the DM if I should leave, was definitely planning to not return, but didn't want to look like it. And he said that, no, we'll work on reviving the character, but they never got to it. So I actually sat for 2 hours doing fucking nothing. That is horrendous. And for those of you who don't play D&D, because his player was unconscious, that meant that any attack rolled against him would immediately succeed. And because he was close to death, any damage done would kill him, so yeah. There was nothing he could do about it. And the DM let that happen. This one's brought to us by Imaginary Goose, 3251. Other players kept making fun of me the moment they found out that I go to a church. I'm not really religious, but my family is. My parents and grandparents go to church every Sunday, and I have gone with them since I can remember. It's sort of been part of the routine for me. Even now that I don't live with my parents, I still go to their church every Sunday, as it's a way for me to meet them in person every week and have breakfast with them afterwards. I'm part of an online game, and for a few months now, we've played on every Saturday evening. A few weeks ago, one of the players was busy on a Saturday, so he asked to shift the game to Sunday. I said that I have to go to church in the morning, but any time in the evening would be fine. Another player, Jane, thought I was joking at first, until I swore that I went to church on Sunday. After that, however, every joke she made started to change. I wouldn't have minded it as much if she kept the jokes in game, but she started asking me stuff like how I feel about there being other gods in the game, and how I feel about Catholic priests, kids, and how I feel about homophobia, etc. in the church, and whatever stuff church had done. She just randomly in the middle of the game would ask me such stuff and act as if this was some clever joke and expect me to keep defending stuff. I just stopped enjoying the game within a few weeks of this and told the DM I won't be playing in the game. That sucks, buddy. Look, I'm not a religious person. I'm probably more of being agnostic, if anything. But at the same time, I understand and respect most religions. And while there are members of each religion that can most certainly be bigoted towards others, most religious people aren't like that and actually follow by the code that's written within their own holy texts. And, much like how most atheists or agnostics are normally pretty chill with people who are religious, occasionally you get those militant atheist types who are more interested in just simply shitting on people because they have a religion, even when they're not hurting anyone. Much like how I'm always accepting of LGBTQ people in my audience, I'm also accepting of all religious people in my audience, because I'm under the belief that if you want to live your life a certain way, you should be allowed to, as long as you're not hurting someone else. And because I'm a big believer of the whole walk 2 moons kind of thing, this would be the equivalent of someone in a D&D party finds out that someone's either gay or trans or they have, a non-normative sexual identity. This would be the equivalent of constantly being badgered by other players at the table about that said sexuality, like, oh, the king's a dude, would you fuck him? Or vice versa. Oh, the barmaid's a lady and you're a lesbian, would you fuck her? It's the same kind of thing. Unless your player shows bigoted beliefs, don't just fucking rag on them for no reason. That's a dick move. Blood reward. Players wanted a stream-like experience just because of my job. I'm a voice actor and have worked in the industry for a better part of the last 15 years. I don't work in English, so just as a heads up, I might not be someone you recognize. That being said, one of my hobbies has always been tabletop role-playing games, and I believe they've influenced my decision to pursue this career. I've been a DM for as long as I can remember, and it's truly the way I enjoy the games. Just because I'm a voice actor doesn't mean my games are any better produced, or that I perform thousands of voices for immersion. To be honest, I tend not to do voices for my NPCs. After doing that all day for work, I don't feel like continuing it in my free time. Up until now, it hasn't been a problem. However, my usual group has become unable to play regularly due to scheduling conflicts. Since TTRPGs and particularly D&D, have been my hobby for such a long time, I didn't want to stop playing altogether. So I asked a friend who owns a game store if he knew anyone looking to join a game, and he did. He set me up with 4 players, 3 experienced ones, and 1 who had only played a few one-shots. For a definition for those of you who are unfamiliar with what a one-shot is, it's essentially an extremely short campaign that can usually, if not always, be completed in a single session, if your sessions are usually around 4 to 5 hours at most. That being said, our games are going to take place at my friend's store, so I met them briefly beforehand and held a session 0 to discuss how my games are run and to help them come up with characters. They all seemed eager, and honestly, that really pumped me up. That was until our actual first session. We met up and started the session right away. The problem was, all that initial excitement seemed to vanish as soon as I began to speak. I didn't think much of it at first, but it progressively got worse. I could see the frustration on the faces of the experienced players, and the one who had just started playing eventually pulled out his phone and began scrolling through his feed. At one point, it got a bit too overwhelming, and I called for a 10-minute bathroom break. When I returned to the table, I overheard them complaining to my friend, the store owner. They were saying, and I quote, "You said he was a fucking voice actor." They then proceeded to curse at me and complain that I wasn't giving them the experience they wanted to my friend, who seemed concerned even though I could hear him trying to defend me. They stopped when I came into their field of vision, but it was clear I had heard everything. They just packed up their things, got up, and left without even saying goodbye or goodnight. This was frustrating, to say the least. It seems they were expecting a high level of D&D with a plethora of voices, sounds, and other immersive elements. While it's fine for them to have their own expectations, it did bother me. Is simply asking for a straightforward TTRPG experience too much to ask for? Well, nothing I can do over spilt milk, but I guess I'll just wait for when my friend's schedules align again. Which sucks, but hey, what can one do? Thanks for reading. I know it's not as bad as others, but yeah. Good night, everyone. Edit, just to make sure there's no misunderstandings, my friend only mentioned my job to arrange the schedule. He did not advertise it or promise I'd do anything extraordinary. He knows my style, so I don't think he'd do that. Yeah, this just sounds like you encountered a really entitled group of players who, heard that you had a job and a profession that aligned with something that made them expect a Matt Mercer-like experience when, in all actuality, you just wanted to play the damn game and they wanted some kind of spectacle to be thrown in front of them. Which, that fucking sucks, because as a DM, I could only crank the knob up every now and then and, actually have roleplay. There are some sessions where I'm kind of just exhausted and I need to just have like a casual session that's not just me amping up every single character that I'm playing. And when that happens, sometimes I just throw my players into combat. It is... that is a guilty admission of mine, but sometimes I just can't be damned to actually perform. Ill Psychology 9918. DM does literally everything that could be wrong. I've been sitting on this story for a long time, and it's a long one, so strap in. I was in this campaign, which was supposed to be like a Magitech setting, and after a while it became obvious the DM could have just written a novel for it because of how lore-heavy and railroady it was. Oftentimes, he would just have the PCs be transported everywhere they needed to go for the plot's sake, and would have our characters be under strict orders because he made them join the military. It became pretty obvious that it just became him acting out his military fantasies and not necessarily was about us having fun anymore. He would get actually angry when we didn't know the exact military protocol for handling things, and genuinely would fume if we wanted any autonomy for our characters. By the way, we did not initially go into this expecting it to be a military-based story. When we signed up for the campaign, we didn't know it was going to be a realistic war setting. So there was no safety tools set up and no content warnings. We got into some very heavy material, which should have been covered with a body horror warning. Another issue is that most of us in the group are transgender and he is not, which is not the issue, but he originally got pissy when some of us wanted our characters to reflect our identity, and we had to find a loophole in his "it's not realistic" to convince the DM to let us make our characters trans as well. The loophole was literally, well, trans people are real, which was absolutely insane to have to tell someone. Literally so many red flags. I took off a few months to no D&D is better than bad D&D until Baldur's Gate 3 reminded me that D&D was normally fun and I went and found other groups to play in. Yeah, see, controversial opinion here, but OP actually made a massive mistake, a fatal error even, one that's honestly not forgivable. They told me to strap in for a long story and it was only 5 paragraphs. If even that. That's besides the point, though. Yeah, my general recommendation, if you want to have an extremely structured and railroady campaign without telling your players, write a book instead. This is the DM equivalent to when players just want an extremely railroady and scripted campaign and they just want, like, essentially a video game. This is the DM equivalent, where they want to make an extremely railroady campaign with little to no player autonomy. They just want to write a book. Honestly, those two types are a match made in heaven, but not everyone likes playing D&D or other RPG games like that, so it gets messy. Slight content warning beforehand for body horror. Miserable Message 12 brings this one to us, and it has the not safe for work tag. Other players knocked me out and cut off my limbs. DM rewarded them for it. Violence warning. We're playing a pretty ruthless campaign, and we all know that. However, what I was not prepared for was yesterday's session. My character, who had been the jolly bard with no enemies, playing music and making food for the party, lost the MacGuffin a few sessions ago. I was attacked by the big bad evil guy's vampire daughter, and she almost killed me and stole the MacGuffin I was carrying inside of my ribcage. At the time, this was a very important step in my bard's character development, and we worked off of it very well with him losing all self-worth, having PTSD including panic attacks, and even self-harming at one point. This is where the horror story begins. My bard, Gastrix, had fallen asleep in the forest and wakes up to the 2 artificers, Tagror and Engel, standing above him with the daughter that had assaulted me. Naturally, I acted out a panic attack due to this being the day after I was attacked to begin with. What happened next shocked me to my very core. I expected a stern talking to, but instead, my own party members attacked me, knocked me out, tortured me, and lastly, sliced off my left arm and the thumb on my right hand, and left me in the forest. All while the DM was laughing his ass off and complimenting them on being so despicable and dark. After this, I was left in the forest, and the 2 artificers went back to the daughter's house. She went, "I am sorry about your bard friend, let me make it up to him. How about I enhance your weapons?" And then buffed their weapons while I was left half dead unconscious in the forest with nothing but a half useless character. Should I bring a bomb to the next session? Yes. you probably should at this point, holy shit. Because you've mentioned coming back to the sessions, I assume that you want to continue playing with these people. I don't know if I would want to, but that seems to be what's on your mind. Now, because of the horrific act, the DM should probably honestly reward your bard with like some sort of prosthetic that gives you a couple, I mean, hell, honestly, with what happened, you deserve a +2 advantage at something. Like, seriously, that's a fucked up thing to happen to your character. I'm guessing there were no dice rules to actually prevent it. It just happened. So if that's the kind of situation the DM's gonna put you through, they should reward the character in some kind of way. If your bard dies, make a broken character. But a broken character specifically to kill other player characters to enact your revenge. Beyond that, I genuinely don't know what to do in this situation besides leave that party because that is fucked up. But in the comments below, he does mention that this is his only source of D&D beyond his toddler nephew. Personally, unless you really want to stick with these people, I would recommend visiting one of the many subreddits dedicated to finding TTRPG groups, or even just going to the official Dungeons and Discord server so you can find a party that isn't sociopathic. That's my recommendation. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.